If you're looking to buy a stacked NBA 2K account with max badges and more, visit sportstmb.com. He has been in the community for years and has hundreds of reviews. Click the first link in the description to get your account today.
Before this video starts, if you enjoy this video, there are many more like it already on the channel, with many more like it to come in the future, so subscribe. I'm trying to hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so I would really appreciate it. I upload almost daily on this channel, so if you're looking for some consistent sports talk during the quarantine, this is the place for it. And also, real quick, please drop a like. It only takes a second and it makes a massive difference, and I really appreciate it. If there is one award that people really do not debate really in the present or in the grand scheme of things, it is the Sixth Man of the Year award. Of course, there is the Executive of the Year and Coach of the Year awards that people tend to give less of a shit about, but that's why I specifically said player awards. Now, as for why this is, well, people tend to forget the guy who came off the bench, which is really not fair. Because a great, truly great sixth man can make a massive difference for a team, and in the case of many of the players in this video, they can be the X factors for their teams. So today I wanted to talk about the greatest sixth men of all time and determine who the greatest sixth man is. There is a large handful of players who were great sixth men, however, I want to focus on guys who were mostly career sixth men. Now, if these guys started a few seasons here or there, that's perfectly fine, but those seasons are obviously not going to count. But if a guy was a sixth man and then he has since been a starter, he does not qualify. Like a guy like Andre Iguodala, who became a sixth man but did not go back to being a starter, would qualify, but Eric Gordon, who after winning Sixth Man of the Year became an on-again, off-again starter, would not qualify. So with all of that said, here are my contenders for the greatest six men of all time. Manu Ginobili, Jamal Crawford, Andre Iguodala, Kevin Mchale, Lou Williams, John Havelcheck, J.R. Smith, Jason Terry, Detlef Schrempf, Ricky Pierce, Michael Cooper, and Vinnie Johnson. So there are 12 names here, but let's go ahead and cut out 4 to make this a top 8 list. Now I understand that a top 8 list is kind of weird, but I feel like the video would be too short if it was a top 5, and it'd be too long if it was a top 10, so we're going with top 8. So as for who I'm going to cut out, I have to unfortunately cut out Andre Iguodala because he was a top tier sixth man for really only 2 to 3 seasons, and then there was a pretty significant drop off. Then I'm going to be cutting Vinnie Johnson. Vinnie was a sixth man on the Pistons of the 80s, including the late 80s bad boy Pistons. However, I have to cut him out because he didn't provide much outside of scoring, and that scoring wasn't anything insane. He averaged 13 3-and-3 on 45% shooting as a 2-guard, which is definitely nice to have for 7 seasons. However, it's not top 8. Next, I'm cutting Detlef Schrempf. Now, don't get me wrong, he's one of the best players on this list. But he was not an all-star caliber guy until he became a starter, and he wasn't shooting threes until even later in his career, so by default, I have to cut him out. Great player overall, but as just a sixth man, he's not quite as good as the following players after him. And then finally, I have to cut J.R. Smith. Now, I don't have anything negative to say about J.R. Smith. How can you not love the guy? But I just think every other player on here is either better or just simply had a longer reign as a sixth man. He averaged 15-4 off of the bench for 6 years, but everyone else here tops that. So let's rank the remaining players, and coming in at number 8, we are jumping right into the controversy, because at 8, I am putting the guy who is tied for most Sixth Man of the Year awards ever, and that is Jamal Crawford. I consider Jamal to be one of the most overrated players of the past 2 decades. I came very close to cutting him in favor of J.R. Smith. You really could change them for me. My gripe with Jamal Crawford is as follows. He does not provide a single thing outside of scoring, and the scoring that he does provide is not that efficient and especially not consistent. Now, I understand that Jamal Crawford was good for at least one top 10 highlight on really any given night. The dude was as flashy as it gets, and he was a damn fun player to watch. However, there was no depth at all to that flash. Jamal had amazing handle and was a decent enough shot creator, but for his peak as a six-man over 7 seasons, he brought in 16 points and 3 assists on 42% shooting from the field and 35% from 3. How there were people that were relentlessly posting this year on Twitter that a 40-year-old Jamal Crawford who shot 40% last season should still be in the league, I have no idea. The guy was a good volume scorer, and when he had a hot hand, he was a damn great player. However, the reality is Jamal was not much more than a slight positive because he was that terrible at defense and hogged the ball quite a bit. Him having 3 Sixth Man of the Year awards is a travesty. Also, the dude fucking sucked in the playoffs. I didn't know about this until I actually went into the video, but this was not one game or one series. In the same years that I considered his peak, he averaged 15 points per game in the playoffs, shooting just 38% from the field and 31% from 3 over 7 years in over 60 playoff games. So he is number 8. Go ahead and comment below that I've never played basketball in my life. I can already see the comments coming from eye test only NBA fans because they love Jamal Crawford, but whatever. He's the 8th greatest six-man ever. Then at number 7, I have Jason Terry because he is a similar player to Jamal Crawford, except he's not a ball hog, and he doesn't suck in the playoffs. Like Jamal, Terry is a defensive liability, but he isn't as much of a ball hog because his game has less to do with ball handling, and he's a better, more consistent three-point shooter. From 2008 to 2012, Terry averaged 17 points and 4 assists and won Sixth Man of the Year in 2009, where he averaged 20 a game off the bench. But number 6, I have one of the more underrated players on this list, and there are actually 2 more players I consider extremely underrated on this list. But this one is Michael Cooper. Now, Michael might not jump out in the box score when you look at him initially. He was a part of the Showtime Lakers in the 80s, where from 1980 to 1987, he averaged 10 points and 4.5 assists, shooting 48, 34, 83. So offensively, he was a pretty solid player, however, where he shined was on the defensive end. Cooper was an all-time great perimeter defender. He made 8 all-defensive teams in his career, and he won Defensive Player of the Year in 1987, making him one of 5 guards to ever do that, and I imagine he's one of few players to ever do that, being a player coming off of the bench. So Michael was a staple of reliability for the Showtime Lakers, where he made multiple all-defensive teams, won Defensive Player of the Year, and helped the Showtime Lakers win 5 championships in the 80s. Number 5, I have Lou Williams. Now, Lou is in the same vein as a Jason Terry and Jamal Crawford. However, I have him higher because both his longevity and his peak, which I know sounds kind of contradictory. However, Lou has been a good to great sixth man for a decade now in the NBA, and his peak with the Clippers over the last 3 years has been phenomenal. Over the last 3 seasons, he has averaged 20 points per game on 50% true shooting as a sixth man. Now at number 4, I have Ricky Pierce. Now I'm not gonna lie, before writing this video, I knew very little about this guy. However, looking into it, from 1986 to 1991, he averaged 20 points on 51% shooting, and he won 2 Sixth Man of the Year awards. He was a damn good scorer, and he even made the All-Star team in 1991, where he averaged 20, and he did that just barely off from shooting 50, 40, 90 while coming off of the bench. Also, for some reason, according to Basketball Reference, his number 1 nickname, go-to nickname, was Big Paper Daddy. Now, I don't know why that is. I don't even think I want to know why that is. But damn it, I know it, so now you have to know it. Then at number 3, I have Manu Ginobili. Now, this was a tough one for me to rank because I think Manu as a peak talent is better than anybody on this list. But he also seemed to be the most limited by being a sixth man. Some guys on this list thrived as sixth men, being sixth man really amplified their strengths and minimized their weaknesses. Whereas with Manu, I don't think he was really supposed to be a sixth man, he was just forced into that role. If anything, the role was just a massive limitation for him. The 2 years where he made an all-star team were years where he was a starter, so unfortunately I can't count those when ranking him as a sixth man. But from 2008 to 2010, he came off the bench and averaged 17, 4, and 5 on 45, 38, 87 split, shooting 6 threes a game, And then, after briefly being a starter and making the All-Star team in 2011, he went back to being a sixth man where he averaged just 12, 3, and 4. Based on the numbers alone, Manu would probably rank a few spots lower. However, I think Manu's talent far outweighed the numbers that he put up, so as a result, he is where he is. But I could definitely see him being lower, even though most people view him as the staple sixth man. I really wish that Greg Popovich never made him a sixth man because he could definitely have a much better legacy than he does. Then at number 2 and number 1, I have a tie between two Celtics and John Havelcheck and Kevin Mchale, probably leaning more towards Kevin Mchale being number 1. Either way, it's close. Hondo was a sixth man from 1962 to 1969 where he averaged 19, 6, and 4 on 42% shooting. As a sixth man, he made 4 All-Star teams in 7 years, and he made multiple All-NBA and All-Defensive teams. And as a sixth man, he won 6 championships alongside Bill Russell and Red Auerbach. And then Kevin Mchale averaged 17 and 8 on 55% shooting from 82 to 85, then started briefly and then averaged 18 and 7 on 54% shooting. And he made 2 all-defensive teams and won 2 Sixth Man of the Year awards, also winning 2 championships as a sixth man. Now on the surface, Hondo is probably more appealing as a sixth man than Kevin Mchale, especially because he won 6 championships as a sixth man. However, I feel that Mchale is pretty similar talent-wise with both of them as sixth men. However, for their careers, I easily give that one to John Havelcheck because he averaged 24, 7, and 7 as a starter and led his team to 2 championships as the best player. I actually think John Havelcheck might be the most underrated player in NBA history. That may or may not be a video down the line. But as sixth man, I think I gotta give a slight edge to Kevin Mchale. So those are my top 8 sixth men in NBA history. That is the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.